So basically, what you were saying to me about living in Colombia and then traveling a lot internationally. I mean, obviously that's a road less traveled. So what what's the story behind all that? Like, what was the genesis of it, and what sort of led to you being so comfortable doing that? Because I think it's fascinating to a lot of people. And kind of what led you to where you are now, and what are your plans for the future?
Well, there's a lot in that question, but it's absolutely true. It is a road less traveled. I guess some people don't leave their hometown, home state, home country,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Some people begin to travel a little bit. What had happened for me was back in 2007, I made a movie, a documentary about entrepreneurs. I interviewed a bunch of young, very successful entrepreneurs and how they achieved what they achieved. And we began showing the film all around the world, actually. And people were flying me around, and I was doing presentations about it. And at that time, I had a sales training company, and I needed to hire remote people. I was becoming remote as I was living in Miami, Florida, and I was traveling quite a bit. And I'd heard about outsourcing. I'd heard about India was really big back then, right? This was like
Yep. Yep.
before all these other places got big. I tried India, and the accents were really difficult to deal with for me. And I actually, for a couple of years, supporting my other business, I tried outsourcing like all over the world. Like, there were different websites out there from like, Belarus to Uruguay to Pakistan, all these different places, until I really stumbled upon the Philippines, where for me, it was kind of like a natural fit. I felt more comfortable talking to the folks in the Philippines.
Hmm.
I got more confidence there, and I really just started building a team to support myself there. Really had no intentions of selling, out virtual
Interesting.
assistant services. But lo and behold, I started building a really good team that was supporting my business. This was before I was even selling the service.
Yep.
And what I found was that it was nice not having employees in my office, because I had a small office before, and I had people coming in every single day. And it was really just a lifestyle choice where this was a little bit, I guess you could call, thinking out of the box, where, yeah, not everybody, 12, 13, 14 years ago, were building, remote type companies. It's a little bit more common now, people working from their home, and everybody's got internet and all these Zoom calls that we can do with anybody
Yep.
at any hour around the world. So really, it kind of opened up my eyes to what might be available out there. And then I thought, oh, it might be interesting to visit the people that I've been hiring out there. So I began visiting them and spending more time out in the Philippines and interviewing people, and really enjoyed living out there. It's really hot, the weather, like
Yeah.
super hot. So I, from a lifestyle standpoint, I didn't really want to spend that much time there. So it was kind of like a pleasure to get there, a pleasure to be there. But after a while, it was kind of a pleasure to leave, because it was just so humid.
Yeah.
But in terms of, managing a team and working with a team, I know you've got a couple of virtual assistants with us. I'm not sure what the rest of your team looks like, if everyone's working in office, or, now with COVID and all these lockdowns and social distancing, a lot of people have gone from, the traditional office, and, they may still have an office, or they've given up their office, and they're just working from home. To me,
Yeah.
it's more important that you're productive, that you're hitting results, that you're producing the kind of work that's expected, versus the traditional, you have to be in this place sitting there. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, but at one point in my early 20s, for about a year or two, I did work out of an office. And I remember hanging out at that water cooler, for a
Yeah.
good portion.
I'm guessing you didn't like it very much. Yeah.
Well, that's not really my I guess, character, but I remember
Yeah.
people just hanging out and talking. There wasn't a
Yeah.
lot of work going on. So, to me, I'm more interested in productivity than, the old paradigm of, you've got to sit there from this hour to that hour. I do have people, and I also sit here, from this hour to that hour. But I also understand, to get the happiest and most productive employees, there are certain things that we have to consider, that people have kids, they have families, they have certain things going on in their lives, where if they have to take a 3-hour break during the day, and they make up those 3 hours at the end of the day, I have no problem with that. And it's a
Yeah.
different paradigm. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but It's what we've been using for the last many years. I've been doing this well over 10 years, specifically as this company, and it works for us.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, it's interesting because you made a point earlier, like you've been doing it for a while. And so, you know, recently, or, in today's world or post-COVID, it's easy to really visualize outsourcing a lot more, right? We have more technology now, and a lot of people have done it. And of course, there's that argument that, well, hey, you could have people that live down the street from you that you're basically outsourcing, right? Because they're just going online. I'm sure it wasn't like that at the start for you, but it's funny. In our CFO practice, we talk a lot about outsourcing, and it's not necessarily just outsourcing support or some of these more, I guess, hourly type jobs, and it could really be anything, and you have to do an analysis as to what the cost savings is, versus managing yourself. I mean, what do you really see as beyond just cost? I mean, what do you see are the big advantages of the big decision sort of KPIs between outsourcing, and then I'm assuming that the other option is really employing somebody, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's more than that as far as options.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to semantics, but here's the way that I like to look at it. And, we touched on this last time we spoke, and you kind of just mentioned it here, which is you can have a person that you're working with that is working for you, that whether it's full-time, it's part-time, whether it's an employee, whether it's a contractor, they could be down the street from you, they could be next door to you, and you actually never see them in person,
Right.
unless you turn on that Zoom camera. That's outsourcing. In essence, that's outsourcing. You might have someone across the country that's working for you. You may have a full-time employee that is remote. And that's kind of the way that I like to look at it. It's just like a remote worker, a remote relationship, a remote team. And whether you're hiring them full-time or on a contractual basis, it's really just a matter of semantics. And, it comes down to what kind of taxes you're paying and other benefits and things of that nature. The reality is, when you live in the United States, chances are you open up a business and you hire some people, they're full-time people, until you start realizing that, well, maybe it makes sense to hire people part-time or on a contractual basis. And then if we can do that, maybe we could take advantage of some geo arbitrage and get the same kind of work and get it a little bit less expensive. Maybe you're living in New York City and you hire someone from, Oklahoma or Alabama or something. Wages are a little bit less there. They could be a full-time employee.
Yep.
You're choosing from a wider playing field. And this goes back to your first question is, what's it like, being international or traveling abroad? You can do the same thing with your business. People source from China for a lot of products these days in the United States, or you can get other kinds of goods, fruits and vegetables that aren't available in the United States that get imported in. The reality is, when you're building a website or editing video or doing some data entry, no one's really going to know where that work is being fulfilled. Sometimes people go outside of the United States and they're paying more. They're paying more for an employee. They're paying more for a contractor. They're paying more for a remote worker, just because they're looking for that very specific skill set that they may not have been able to find. And that's the other thing about having a remote team is, regardless of where you're based, let's say in this example for the United States, you might be based in any city, USA. If you have an office and you're expecting people to come into the office every day, you're probably only pulling from like maybe a 20, 30, 40 mile radius from where your physical office is located. You'll probably find the right people that you want for that job. But imagine if you could open that up and have them remote. You could still hire from that same, 20, 30, 40 mile radius. But why not choose from all over the state or all over the country and get a better qualified person